Hello and welcome back to Beyond the Veil background information. Today we're going to be doing another Angels and Demons profile, and once again we're going to be focusing on the Watchers, or the Grigori. So as usual, we'll start with a little quote from one of the stories these characters are featured in, and then I'll talk about the information I have on it, and then my profile. Today's topic is about Danael. Danael was a Watcher, but one who had been a compulsive liar around humans, a sadist who'd teach them the harshness of reality, and worst of all, that certain things like alcohol made humans unaware of shame. It had been with this he'd watched mortals harm one another, and he was the most loathsome of all the Watchers, yet obedient to his friend Azazel. Quote from Our Infernal Affair. It can be very hard to make the distinction between various angelic entities written in different texts, and especially there are various names that are repeated time and time again with different angels and indeed some demons. Generally, the Watcher named Daniel is spelt as in the namesake, but there is also the spelling of Danael, which is Danael, which I've started using for them now to separate them from the guardian angel Daniel in my Cruel Temptation story. And there are at least 4 Daniels I know of. 1 Daniel is in the Lion's Den human. 2 Daniel, one of the 72 angels bearing the name of God. 3 Daniel or Danael the Watcher. And 4 Daniel, a ministering spirit serving Camwell, demonic spirit of the East. In Demonology, the last 2 in the variant spelling of Danael for the Watchers stem from the information included about them in the Ars Ferrugia. In the Ars Ferrugia, he is described as one of the several chief dukes working for the demon prince Dorochil, and commands 400 lesser demons, and is connected with the court of the West. But this is the latter one, and yet still connected to the Watcher Daniel. Now, just like with the rest of the named Watcher leaders, there is a great deal of confusion on what the names really were, as there are various lists, but their information is all scarce. For example, Daniel's own part on Wikipedia is literally 3 sentences long, because there's not enough mention of him. Now, like all the Watchers, Daniel was one of 200 angels in heaven that were given the task to watch over humanity. Now, these angels soon began to lust over the daughters of Eve, and were gathered together with Semyaza and Azazel to abandon heaven. They made a vow to enjoy the pleasure of the flesh, and as they did so, not only started to take over with their Nephilim children, but dared to teach forbidden knowledge to humanity. Daniel, the 7th of the 20 leaders, was the one to teach them the signs of the sun, which I would assume to be part of teaching them a concept of time, or perhaps when the day was warmest or coolest because of the Earth's movement around the sun. It's not exactly clear, as none of the apparent forbidden knowledges are that clear at all, save Sariel's movements of the moon. Like all the Watchers, they were eventually captured by the angels and forced to watch their offspring kill each other before the world was flooded and their knowledge and influence seemingly washed away with it. They were then bound up and cast down amongst the other fallen angels. The fates of the individual angels, aside from Semyaza and Azazel, are not really made clear. It's hard to discuss anything more with this being, as even as the other Daniel, they are a servant to a greater demon, so it's not much to say on that point either. However, for my own stories, I found Daniel was useful for all these confusions for my story, Our Infernal Affair. So I hope you find my profile below interesting. Name: Daniel. Position: Watcher, Fallen Angel. Story featured in Our Infernal Affair. Role: male romantic interest. Gender: male. Description: once beautiful with softly tanned skin, hair that was bronze and shone in the sunlight, piercing amber eyes that seemed to flare and lock in the sunlight, with wings as brilliant and golden as the sun itself. Danael was beautiful. However, his wings were cut to stumps, and all the light drained out of him to turn his hair the green of old bronze, and then a rust shade, and his eyes dull and grey with some painful wing stumps on his back. Realm: Purgatory. Abilities: like all angels, he had the ability to guide others, to listen, to heal, and also had the knowledge of the signs of the sun and how to manipulate too. He knew how to create alcohol and encourage humans to push themselves past their limits, both in the good sense and bad sense. Master himself, though feigns obedience to Dorochil, Azazel, and Phoenix. Personality: cunning, sneaky, lustful, manipulative, and a compulsive liar. He likes and loves no one but himself. He enjoys to watch others hurt and gets excited by it. As a Watcher, he was the worst for the fact he purposefully encouraged his Nephilim offspring to harm people, encouraged humans to get drunk and start fights, to push them as far as they would go. In truth, he had no and has no redeeming qualities since he made the oath against God. Relations: Semyaza. He was cautious of him, knowing full well that he was the only one that could reprimand him, and yet he was never forced to as Semyaza went dark. Azazel, the one to recruit him and his pretend master. The pair had been whispering with each other for years over what they sought and what they wanted from humanity, and always the pair would have a strong bond that continued onwards. Arachiel, though they did not know each other or care about each other much as watchers. Once in Purgatory, however, he began to despise the being he saw was too eager to repent and shove it in everyone's face. Dorochiel. When the young demons freed him, he thought he might try and escape through the west end of Purgatory, but as every route in Purgatory leads to hell if you go seeking, he was caught by Dorochiel, Prince the Demon Emperor of the West, and eager to make sure he was not joining the wrong side. So Danael found himself locked away in a region of Purgatory where he was under house arrest until the battle with the young demons happened. So he hates but flatters Dorochiel. Phoenix, the remaining leader of the young demons, Danael was clever to manipulate him into working for him, just so he'd leave him alone but give him a potential position in a future hell. Spike, the mostly female demon sent by Phoenix to keep an eye on him. They're the protagonists of the story and Daniel's seeming love interest, but he knows how to keep manipulating her to help him. History. I can only give this in brief because it would spoil the story of our infernal affair. Born with the other angels through the same thoughts of the sun, Danael was trained to learn the secrets of the sun and its signs before making friendship with Azazel. Together the pair always fought over the curious ways humans got more than them in heaven. Then, when Lucifer was encouraging everyone to choose gender like Azazel, Danael tried out being male, and both of them rather liked the feelings and were involved with a few females until he realised there would be consequences and pulled away. Upon doing so, Danael did not get involved with the war in heaven, and so was sent to be a watcher. Whilst there, he and Azazel grew in lust, and with Cockabill's help, encouraged Semyaza to bring them all together to vow against God and begin a lustful campaign against the earth. Here, Daniel was lustful and got together with any human he could, but would encourage others to hurt one another depending on his wants or how bored he was with them. But when Azazel took things too far and lured in the angels, Daniel's beautiful wings were severed and he was tied up in Purgatory with the others. Once here, a later rebellion by younger demons cut them free, hoping for help from those not aligned to Lucifer, and yet Daniel made the run, only to be caught by Dorochiel and pledge allegiance to Lucifer because he followed Azazel. But Dorochiel's master was smart enough to know the compulsive lie would turn on them, and so he was put on seeming house arrest in Purgatory until he met Phoenix, who made him pledge to them in order to gain position in hell, and sent Spike to keep watch of him and company with him. Spike is useful for all of Daniel's desire, but he is only using her like he uses everyone. Final comments. He's slimy scum in my story, and that's what is so interesting about him. I hope you found him interesting too. Thank you.